consume you in ways you do not anticipate.
Yeah, it spits
What
you
is
out.
Roger talking about? If you're a patron, you can find out by getting the audio of the pre-show.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's good.
It will spit you out.
Nice
It's
tease.
that's the thing though, especially in businesses that are very personality driven. Um, what most people would consider to be like like, hey, you're a little obsessive compulsive or whatever is considered an attribute, like for a television series or whatever, and so people will kind of play into that for you, not giving you any kind of heads up that, hey, you might want to reconsider that line of thinking because it might lead you to ruin.
It'll lead you to ruin, I say.
It's interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Good.
Well, go ahead. I was just gonna say ruin like a old 20s radio guy. That was
Like, I remember Small Wonder.
Oh yeah.
I met that actress a long time ago, like in college, because she was a roommate of my at the time my friend's wife. We had met at a Lions restaurant, and it was really interesting because how well adjusted she was. Because she did that, and then she said, "Well, I don't want to do TV anymore. I'm just going to move on to another career path." And I've noticed, especially with child actors, that do kind of like, I got other stuff outside of just being on TV. That they seem to mature pretty well. Like what's Miriam Balanik or whatever? She did. Was that her name? The girlfriend on Big Bang Theory that used to be.
That was Blossom. Yeah.
Blossom.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has a PhD. Like,
Yeah.
and so does Winnie from
Wonder Years.
the Wonder Years.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's funny how some of them just disappear from the limelight, and then you find out later that they went on to like rad stuff that had nothing to do with Hollywood.
Well, yeah, Rupert, what's his name? Ron
Kipling?
Weasley?
Oh,
Rupert Grint.
Yeah.
He's got his own thing. He just does his own things. He doesn't really want to do movies.
Well, he tried a few and it didn't really work out. I'm all for
Well,
this.
I'm not sure that's why, though.
Well, sure.
Well, and maybe it is. I'm just saying, like, the few things that I've read about him, he's like, yeah, just not my thing.
Yeah. I think
Whereas,
that's
like,
cool.
Emma, I can only remember the first names. Hermione.
Hermione.
Emma Watson.
Yes.
She had a couple of things that didn't work out, but she just kept at it.
Kept going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think, I don't know. I think it's just hard for kids who are being pushed around by adults to do what they should do. Like, who knows, maybe the Hames, the Corey Hames and the Corey Feldmans of the world would have less tragic stories to tell if they didn't have so many adults trying to cram Hollywood down their throats and gave them other options or something. I don't know.
But for that, we must do our tech news show now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great note to end on before we
All
do
right.
the actual show.
Here we go.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, August 17th, 2016. Oh, me? I'm just Tom Merritt, but he's Scott Johnson, the man behind the instance, the morning stream, Boop, and more.
Yes, much more. So I'm thrilled to be here. I just wanted to say this. I'm glad the show's on Wednesdays because I got this like weird summer cold flu thing on Monday,
Ooh.
and if it would have been that day, you would have had the like the most drunk on cold medicine version of Scott you ever had.
Well, now I feel like we missed out on something.
Oh, you didn't. Trust me. I think I was revealing things about myself that day that nobody wanted to hear. So
Oh, now I really think we missed out on something. I hate getting the chills in the 90-degree weather. That's just
it's
the worst.
bad. It's
Yeah.
real bad.
Yeah,
But listen, I made it through. I'm okay now. And listen, technology waits for no man.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're healthy and back with us. We are going to talk about headphone jacks and the removal thereof on phones. Apple CEO Tim Cook is on his second trip to China in 4 months. He's promising to set up a research center there within the next year. Cisco's rumored to be preparing to lay off 14,000 people, up to 20% of its workforce, as it shifts from hardware to software focus. And Huawei's 5.2-inch Honor 8 phone is available for pre-order in the U.S. for $400. You can even get a $50 discount. Here are some more top stories. This is the big one. Intel announced a partnership with ARM. We'll just let a few of you who hadn't possibly run across this already take a seat and wipe your brow now. They're going to let third parties use Intel's 10 nanometer FinFET foundries, say that 5 times fast, to produce chips based on ARM's artisan design. Now, the customized designs that Qualcomm makes where they kind of tweak the design, those won't be of interest. Intel isn't going to let their competitors come in and do that. But if you want to take an off-the-shelf ARM design and run it on the foundry, you can. In a technical session at the forum, the Intel Developers Forum, Intel said LG will use Intel to produce ARM chips for mobile devices. So LG is the first up to take advantage of this. Intel began its custom foundry business for outside chip makers back in 2010. So letting competitors, or letting outside parties, I should say, use Intel's foundries to make chips is not new. Achronix was using it, using the 22 nanometer capacity previously. But letting someone who's a competitor in the mobile space, ARM, do this is brand new and somewhat of an admission that Intel, while they're not stopping making Atom chips, is turning their focus elsewhere.
You could have only surprised me more with this information today had it been Intel saying that AMD chips were going to be made in their foundries.
Right. I think that you're right. Like an AMD or yeah, that's kind of the only thing weirder than this. It is a bit of a white flag. It's also very smart for Intel to say, well, if we can't make inroads with Atom, let's at least make some money off the mobile devices out there. And at this point, the mobile device market is starting to mature. So growth projections are leveling out, which means Intel showing off their VR headset yesterday, Project Alloy, showing off other things that you can do with Intel technology for Internet of Things is the growth direction for Intel at this point.
Yeah, it does. It does make me feel a little bad for them on the timing, given that they've had such a foothold in processors for so long, and to have missed the mobile boat a little bit, quite a bit, it turns out, enough for them to say, "Hey, we'll make some ARM chips." I mean, they obviously would much rather be the company that everybody's putting their processors into all these devices, and it's just not happening, not at the rate they need it to. So, I hope what this means is by embracing this, their focus is on something else that will make them sustainable over the long haul. But I still feel like there's something missing here. If Intel's not directly involved with where's mobile's headed, and I don't just mean phones, I mean just Internet of Things, devices of all types, the smaller things that we're buying, who's going to be fueling those with CPUs? And it doesn't sound like they're going to be the ones, and this seems like a bit of an admission of defeat. But I still rather have this than have them, just keep fighting against a wave they can never overcome.
Well, yeah, to be clear, Intel is not giving up the Internet of Things space. Those sensors are smaller. They're different. Intel is going to continue to fight for that. It's the phones and tablets market that it is willing to say, yeah, fine, ARM. I guess the other big thing that they could have done to surprise us is say, oh, the next generation of Atom processors will be an ARM design. Like, that would really be waving the white flag.
Yeah, that totally would be. I mean, they've left a wake of competitors behind them in the past. PowerPC. You could argue, although there's still some cases for where it's being used, but that stuff went away. Why? Because of Intel's strength and dominance. And this is one place they couldn't do it. Sometimes I just think, I feel like anyway, some companies get so big and so good at the thing they do that they just aren't looking at this little tiny thing that runs past them and then becomes the next big thing. And
yeah, and at this point, Intel's like, we tried, we missed it, let's move on.
So here's a wireless headset. Kobo announced this new Aura reader. It's an e-reader, and will go on sale in Canada and the U.S. September 6th for $249 and $229 respectively. The Aura has a 7.8-inch 300 ppi display. This makes it, officially, the largest high-res e-ink screen that you can get today and beats all of the offerings over at Amazon. It's a 6.9 millimeter thick, weighs 230 grams, and meets IPX8 water resistance, able to withstand 2 meters of water. It's good for you vacationers dropping it at the pool. UK, France, and the Netherlands, Germany, Spain, Japan, and Turkey are also going to get it on the 6th at different price points. How much of a share do they have of that market, I wonder? Like, I always hear about these Kobos, and I get kind of interested because a lot of my nerdiest friends on the fringes of what's cool are reading books on Kobo devices.
Well, and that's the thing that surprises me. Not surprises me now, but over the state, over the years, is that we have seen Kobo hold on. It looked like Amazon was just going to run everybody out of the market, right? Here's another example. We got 2 stories in a row where the obvious predominant manufacturer of something didn't dominate a market as well as we think. Now, that's not to say Amazon is not dominating e-readers. They absolutely are. But Kobo, by all rights, should be on the skids. And instead, they actually seem to be doing quite well, even gaining a little bit of market share. And I think that's why this is getting so much attention, because they're now out. I don't want to say out innovating because that's overstating it, but they're pushing the boundaries a little in ways that Amazon isn't really willing to do. Amazon's been making very incremental upgrades to the Kindle. So if you really want a larger high-res screen, something like you say that's good around, you know, a little bit of water when you're out at the beach or on vacation, you might be looking at a Kobo. They seem to have withstood the onslaught.
Yeah, in a way, it feels like a segmentation of that market that's healthy, and in the way that, like, you know, you and I can go buy a PC of various power. We can get a notebook. We can get a whatever from Dell or from Apple or from HP or something, and get done what work we need to get done. Or we can invest in some crazy half custom built gaming PC or something to do video editing on and high end gaming on or something. I'm not saying that this is that equivalent of that, but it feels like a segment of the market that's kind of specialized weirdly. And I barely know anything about Kobos, and I get that impression from the website, from the marketing, from the fact that they're kind of an underdog and don't care. Like, I think it's great. This sort of thing is important. And what ends up happening if you don't have this is you just have stagnant growth in an area that I'm really fond of, which is e-readers. So I say go for it, Kobo. And I wouldn't mind seeing one. I wouldn't mind holding one and seeing what I think of it. I'm getting close to upgrade time, so we'll see.
TV and digital publisher, I still want to call it Univision because they started with Spanish language channels, but I hear everyone call it Univision. So has agreed to pay $135 million for Gawker Media, makers of Gizmodo and Lifehacker and IO9. Mark Patrikoff, the Houlihan Lokey investment advisor, said, yep, $135 million. Ziff Davis offered $90 million, so they got outbid. Univision will add Gawker to its other digital properties like The Onion. Don't know if you realize they own The Onion. The Root. They also own Fusion. Univision's offer needs approval from the U.S. bankruptcy court judge to determine Gawker's appeal of the case, because that decides who gets the money. It could go to the litigants, not to the defendants.
Isn't this just slightly more money than they had to pay Hulk Hogan for that lawsuit?
Well, and that's not even, I mean, yeah, I guess they had to pay and they're still appealing, so they could get that money back. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you know what that number is?
I was something in 17 million. I may be off on that, but it was in that range.
So it's quite a bit more, but it's also way less than what Nick Denton had estimated Gawker was worth like a year or so ago when they were doing fine and healthy. So you are getting a bargain, Univision, and we will now stop thinking of you as the, you know, dominant Spanish language channel in the United States, although you still are, and start thinking of you as a media company in general, because The Onion and Gawker and The Root are strong products.
Yeah, I had no idea that Onion was a subsidiary of Univision. No idea. That is completely news to me. So obviously they're making a play here. And look, I think those guys over at Gawker are in a lucky position. If your company is worth that much now, despite all of the litigation problems, all the other issues you were having, and kind of the general backlash you've been experiencing, I say good on you. Your company's worth more in a trying time than many companies are worth at their peak. So
when you say you guys and you say that, do you mean Nick Denton, or do you mean like the people who work for Gizmodo?
I mean Nick Denton, I think. And
okay, all right, because I don't think Nick Denton would feel that way if he were here to talk to us right now.
Probably not, but I mean, like, I don't look at IO9 and go, oh, those IO9 guys always doing these terrible stories about people, and you know,
right.
Not the same scrutiny that he's getting, and specifically Gawker.com gets.
I'm sure he would agree that Gawker is worth more than this. I just don't know if it makes him feel better.
No. I'm guessing not, is my thing.
But yeah, I think of also the employees who are writing their way through a time of uncertainty, a time of horrible uncertainty right now, and hoping for the best. And I think either way, Ziff Davis or Univision I would have felt good, like as long as a stable hand is getting a hold of us. Ziff Davis, obviously more endemic to technology, so that's better for the Gizmodo side of this, the life hacker side of this. But a strong media company that is only getting stronger is not a bad way to go either.
Sure. I'm just saying if it was going great, he wouldn't be selling it. That's all. Like if it
Well,
was
he can't. I mean, he's in bankruptcy. It's not. Yeah, he's that. I think that's fair to say. Like,
yeah, I mean it's an obvious
he
thing.
didn't want to sell it.
Right. Right. But my point is, like, if things were going great, we wouldn't even be thinking about it, and he wouldn't talk about how much it's worth. He'd just keep growing it. But I'm glad they bought it. I mean, maybe Gawker can go places. I don't know about Gawker.com. I don't really read it, but I want IO9 to be healthy. I want Gizmodo to live on. I want these rad web standards and staples.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lifehacker even still. So yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Amazon, speaking of a big company, we talked about them a minute ago. Amazon Twitch, rather, and they do own Twitch. A reminder, everybody, Amazon owns Twitch.com. Announced the acquisition of Curse. If you're not familiar with Curse, well, I got a little story for you here. Curse provides a hub for a number of competitive online games and related services. This includes game mod management. If you're a World of Warcraft player at all in the last 10 years, then you know all about the Curse mod manager that you've been using on and off. They also have a voice chat, a complete VoIP system that usually touts its security over other features and tries to draw people away from things like Skype and Ventrilo and others for those reasons, and operates the Gamepedia wikis. These are the ones you're going to find all the information about the games you're playing, very in-depth wikis and so on. So between their properties, Curse received more than 30 million visits, according to Twitch's press release announcing the acquisition. Now here's the thing. I have been racking my brain with all the people I talk to about these sorts of things as to what the real play is here or what they are getting out of Curse. And I'm still not 100% sure. Somebody said to me, well, they really want their VoIP technology. And my answer to that is, why? They don't need it. They stream video game, or they're a service that people log into to stream stuff. So I don't think that's the play. The other one might be, well, they're a recognizable brand with a lot of recognition in the gaming community and a lot of traffic. That means that they could do some original programming, perhaps, for Twitch. That would be Curse-branded programming with some of the great minds that already work with Curse. So you'd get MMO Champion TV or something, or who knows, I don't know. But that's the only thing I can think of, Tom. Otherwise, I'm head scratcher on this one, and we don't know how much money they paid either.
Right. I wonder, well, the thing that catches your eye is the overlap between the games that are popular with Curse users and the games that are popular with Twitch. They are very similar.
Right.
So there obviously is a synergy there of, hey, guys who like to stream these games on Twitch, now we can bundle in all of these amazing opportunities for you to use the Curse tools as well. So maybe it's promotional somehow, or trying to get a setup where when you launch your game, you're using Twitch chat, Twitch mod manager, and Twitch streaming, and it's all the suite of tools you need to do everything but play the game.
That's a very good point. The only thing they don't give you is the game, but every other way to share it, to stream it, to capture it, to whatever. Maybe their next acquisition, something like XSplit or another competitor that's not through like OBS. Like then it starts to form up to me. It starts to make a little bit of sense of being, here is the complete kit you need to be a star on Twitch, which drives views, which drives advertising, which drives all the other revenue. So that's probably right. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody saw it coming.
Well, and the other thing that they get is a boatload of data on what gamers play, how long they play, what they use to play it, and that's going to help them with Twitch streaming as well.
I agree.
Automatic. This is not the automatic with extra letters. It's just spelled like you'd spell automatic, and it makes car accessories. Automatic has a new adapter for your car's ODB port that comes with an unlimited 3G connection. Now, previously, Automatic sold you these adapters, and then you'd have to connect to it by Bluetooth or maybe USB in the olden days to get the data out. But it could tell you all kinds of cool things about your car and how your car worked, and sometimes you could use it to diagnose problems, etc. Well, now you don't even have to connect it by Bluetooth. It just comes with a built-in 3G connection, and you can get it from the cloud. That means it can be connected all the time. A new app for the device has been released. It only works with the Automatic Pro. This new device has customizable notifications, deeper integration with IFT. The Automatic Pro costs $130. That's it. There's no subscription. There's no data charges. You just pay $130, plug that thing in your ODB port, and then the NSA can track you. I mean, then you're collecting data on your car.
Little faux pas there. Yeah, $130 flat rate. It's not bad. I assumed there'd be some sort of monthly cost with this, but I guess
right. This is like the original Kindle when it had the data connection built in.
Yeah. Plus, we've got some spectrum out there that's just sort of there now, right? Like some of it's backup for when you're in a crappy place and your radios have to dial down to whatever it can receive or whatever. But I like the idea that we're not just throwing that stuff to the wind. These data connections are enough for certain applications. Certainly automotive is a good place for that. I'm sure there's others I can't think of, but
yeah, as more phones in the US are on LTE, I'm sure that the carriers are looking for a way to monetize the 3G spectrum because it's too early to retire it, but they're making less money off of it. So Automatic might have been able to get a deal that says, hey, we'll pay you a little for this because these things aren't going to be using a ton of data. They won't be on all the time, and that we can just bundle that into the price.
I like the name Automatic Pro. It sounds like you're just a pro, whether you want to be or not.
I like the ease of it too. Like this is still for somebody who's really into data and cars, right? Like they just want to know everything about their car. And so I've never gotten one because I'm like, I don't want to have to fiddle around with connecting with it. But if it's just going to automatically upload, suddenly it's getting into lazy man's territory, which is where I live.
That's a very happy place for me as well.
Yeah.
A happy place for my wife is the service Pinterest. I'm not trying to stereotype the service. I'm just saying she likes it, and I don't really care for it. That's all I'm saying. Just one single example. Everybody can just keep your emails to yourselves. Pinterest is now rolling out video ads for its managed partners. It will eventually roll out to all advertisers. Advertisers will have the option of putting a few featured pins below the video. Actually, surprised this took so long. I would have thought I know other ads have existed, but I would have thought video ads would have been a no-brainer for this service. It continues to be Pinterest. You know what? It's like what we talked about earlier. Pinterest is like that company that kind of snuck in behind all the other content companies and said, "Here's an idea nobody's thinking of," and some scoffed at it, and boom, it's this like huge thing. So anyway, if you love the service, get ready to be told to buy things with faces that talk to you now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the kind of thing in another social network would be even riskier, and even in a more sedate social network like Pinterest. At least I think it is. I don't hear a lot of troll wars on Pinterest, but even there, you know, people can get a little out of whack if you start changing how things work. So that's why they're doing it very carefully. And I think that's really smart to say, like, let's do it with managed partners. We're going to make sure that the things that are pinned below it are things that they have the rights to pin to, so nobody gets upset and their nose out of joint, like you're appropriating our IP there. So they're going about it very carefully. And maybe that's why it took so long, is they had to get to a point where they knew they would make enough money off these video advertisements for it to be worth the effort. And so much money is going into video advertising on the web these days that they just couldn't turn away from the cash anymore.
And are you like me? It does feel like a fit. Like it feels okay. Like something about Pinterest matching up with this.
I mean, it's visual, right? That seems to make sense.
Yeah, something about it doesn't feel offensive to somebody who might be a Pinterest user. In fact, I can see in some ways where it might be a nice little, and I'm not, listen, I know, I don't want to just say Pinterest is for women, because I know it isn't. There's a ton of stuff on there for me and for dudes and for people who have interests outside of, you know, dresses and colors and the stuff my wife really likes about it, or the food stuff she gets from there. But, you know, the idea that site already caters to this very kind of visual, ooh, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's less about conversations. You end up with a service that can, you know, be advertised well too. I think it's going to be good.
Thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We had good stuff in there from Stoic Squirrel, AGC87, Albasaur, Xfig, Trillion Lover, Motang, Benji Tech, Steve IO, and more. Join them, and together you can rule the subreddit as father and daughter. Go to dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and do some voting, if nothing else. That's a look at our top stories. So, as we said, the Intel Developer Forum going on. Yesterday was Project Alloy. Today was Project We're Going to Let ARM Use Our Fabs. They also had a session where Rahman Ismail and Brad Saunders from Intel explained the advantages of USB-C. Now, many of those advantages we all would expect. For instance, there's going to be USB-C video support, which will work through a hub of USB-C, something that it might not be capable of. You have to have a separate HDMI hub, etc. Not good enough for gaming, he said. There's a little too much latency, but good enough for watching movies. It can carry high-quality video, so that might be an option for some, a USB-C monitor with a USB-C hub, so you can plug in all your USB-C accessories there. That's amazing. For those of you who haven't caught on to USB-C, it's the tiny connection, kind of similar to Apple's Lightning connection, that's reversible, so it's smaller and you can't put it in the wrong direction. The one thing that USB-C has been touted as that many people find controversial is a replacement for your headphone jack. And there's tons of rumors that Apple is going to do this, get rid of the headphone jack, and in their case, replace it with Lightning. The only phone out there yet that has gotten rid of the headphone jack in favor of USB-C is the Moto Z. The Moto Z includes an adapter, which I will immediately lose, and is only 5.2 millimeters thick. That's compared to your current iPhone 6S, which is 7.1 millimeters thick. So Scott and I are going to listen to the advantages and disadvantages here. Scott, are you ready? Are you coming in with an open mind?
I have an open mind. We should maybe warn people ahead of time that Tom and I are on different sides of this argument. I think to a point, because there are a couple of places where it's actually a no-go and no sale for me unless they fix my particular issue.
Okay.
But we won't. And
but
we
you're
won't
leaning towards, and I'm very firmly against. So,
there you go. Firmly
right.
Against, leaning towards, go.
More digital features. So you can do some cool things that you can't do with a headphone jack, like add effects and stuff. It's a reduced cost, they say, because it's integrated right into the situation. You don't have to build a battery if you want noise canceling, for instance. You can just do noise canceling through USB-C. Allows for the thinner phones, like we mentioned. You can make digital sound better audio quality. You can do things like surround sound without having to license any scheme that replicates it in analog. You can put in reverb. You can put in bass effects if you want. You can do some power management, like shut off the mic when it's not in use. And you can even upgrade headphones over time by changing the firmware that runs on the phone to add new features. The disadvantages are you're going to need that adapter, like I mentioned. There is something called device authentication, which they claim is an advantage in their presentation. I claim it as, ooh, good. Sorry, your device is not authorized to play this that I can get with HDMI will now come to my headphones. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Multiple implementations of USB-C mean a set of headphones might work on your phone, but maybe they won't work, or more likely they won't work the same way when you plug them into your laptop or something else. So there you go. That's also the biggest disadvantage is you're going to have to buy new headphones. Nobody has USB-C headphones out there, or at least most of you don't. So you're either going to have to use an adapter or buy new headphones. Are you swayed by thinner, better audio quality, features, power management? What do you think, Scott?
All right. So the way I was approaching this when we first talked about the topic was, how is this any different than any other time we've had to move to a new standard? How is this any different than when floppies finally kicked the bucket, or when we were asked to go from serial and parallel to USB? There were people kicking and screaming then, and there will always be people kicking and screaming when you're about to change an interface standard. So I realize it's a big deal, and it's a little seismic, and it upsets a lot of people. But I also remember at a time talking to my dad about hi-fi equipment back in the day. That's right, hi-fi equipment. Mm-hmm. And he was grumbling at the time. I was a kid, but he was grumbling at the time about this change to what he called quarter-inch stereo plugs to this new tiny little standard, which is what we have today.
3.5 millimeter mini jack, whatever you call it.
Whatever the heck it was called, yeah. And he thought those were great, but I think he thought they were great because he had a lot of headphones already, he had a lot of other equipment already, a lot of interfacing cables between equipment, amplifier stuff that all used this old big fat standard. And I remember that, and I remember thinking, oh, this new thing's cool. It's like half the size. My Walkman, look how small my Walkman one is. That's what we're talking about here. This is so easy to use. And why wouldn't you want to move to something like that? You sure there's this transition? It's a little painful to get through, but you eventually do, just like anything. Another example is things like parallel and serial moving to USB. So all of that being said, or going from SCSI to IDE, high-speed IDE, or whatever it may be, whatever cool connectivity standard we're getting better at. Whenever that changes, people are all upset about it. I don't think that should stop us. I think that's progress. I think that it makes sense. We're talking about now a very old standard that's inside of these phones. I'm not saying there's anything necessarily broken right now, or that we need much more thinness out of our devices. I mean, if Apple makes the iPhone any thinner, things are going to snap. So I don't think that's a good argument by itself. But I think these other features and these other potential standards are very convincing. Here's my no move, though. Okay, this is the one where I can't deal with this. The only way I'm going to be able to listen to something and charge my phone at the same time will now be some sort of convoluted Y-split adapter thing. Very not interested in that. You've got me sold on, hey, here's a new phone, and it's packed in with the new version of the headphones that use this new connector, be it USB-C or, in Apple's case, Lightning. You've got me there, that's fine. But I do a lot of stuff where I just plug those in and listen to something or watch something, but I also keep it plugged in because I just happen to be done for the day, or that's just where the cable is, or whatever. And you're asking me to not be able to do that easily anymore? That bothers me. So it's funny. The thing that bothers me is one of the things that bothers you. I'm just less worked up about what headphones I already own. I'll be fine with the packed-in ones for as long as until something better comes along. So I don't really have a problem with that. But I want to be able to charge and listen and charge at the same freaking time. Without
no, I get what you're saying, and usually I am on the side of, come on, we need to move from standard to standard, or we all still be using RS-232, or like that's just the way progress is made.
Right. But
there is nothing I hate more than making a new standard that reduces functionality. Now, granted, what Intel's trying to say is, yeah, but you get all this other new functionality. That's all functionality that can be done with an analog jack. It just is under the license of Dolby or somebody else for the most part. And the implications of it are, to do the things that you can do with the headphone jack, you have to have a workaround. And that's what you're running into is like, okay, the one thing that I use a headphone jack for is listening while I'm charging. And that becomes tricky. I mean, I can imagine a USB-C cable that has a little Y built into it. So whenever you're charging, you can easily plug in even your USB-C headphones to it. It's no big deal, right? Mm-hmm. But that's clunky. Mm-hmm. And the audio jack is universal across more than just devices. So suddenly you're saying everything going back to the 80s that you have can work with this. Now, granted, I don't need to use a lot of things from the 80s, but it does mean I don't have to think about it when I want to plug audio from one thing to another, because even if it's a 1/4-inch jack, I can get an adapter that is put onto the end of the cable and I won't have to forget and will go right in. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to say, oh, USB-C. So if I had USB-C headphone jack on my iPad, I'd now have to come up with some kind of clunky adapter to be able to plug it into my mixer rather than using the mini jack that's here now. It just makes things less adaptable. And I am with you that the extra millimeter or two is not worth it for me yet. Same time, I do think that maybe we need to move off of mini jack at some point, but maybe USB-C shouldn't carry audio. Maybe it should be another standard. Or maybe I just need to let the kids on my lawn and play with their USB-C, and eventually my mixer will take USB-C and everything will take USB-C. My problem is audio is dumb and therefore works better.
There you go.
And so when you have digital, suddenly all kinds of things can mess with it because, yeah, you can do all these features and you can also stop things from working in ways that don't make any sense. Whereas analog is like, if there's sound coming out, it's going to go through this wire and it's going to end up on the other side.
You've made the most part of your argument that's been the most compelling is what you just said. And I, to a large degree, agree with that. When you said audio is dumb and therefore should be dumb to use, I completely agree. And that's maybe the one place on here where I waffle a little bit. If you look at technologies like, I don't know, broadband, you never saw Tom Merritt arguing, well, if you don't make my 28.8K modem work with this fancy new broadband, then deal's off. Like, you weren't taking the stand like that.
Yeah, of course not.
Why? Well, because that's a complex, measurable leap in growth and capability that far outweighs any inconvenience or transition time or anything else. In this particular case, I will agree 100% that if they all do this, I mean, here the part about competing standards of USB 3 or different implementations, and then these devices being quote unquote smart devices that can determine whether you're allowed to play something or not. Like those are all disadvantages, absolutely. But let's say in a perfect vacuum world, it was all the same standard, and every device manufacturer is using the exact same connection. Let's say even Apple was on board with using USB-C instead of Lightning. Let's say everybody across the board was. There's still going to be that weird transition. It's going to be a pain in the butt, and you're suddenly not going to be able to go, oh, let me pull my headphones out and stick it into your ancient thing in the car and test it for you. You're going to go, oh, shoot, I can't do that because now we're in 2017. That's all going to be a big pain, no question about it. But I think we're just heading here. Like I think the idea, these people who design these products, and as they iterate and iterate, I think the very idea that there's an analog hole in there drives them crazy, given all the surrounding technology of the device. It feels like this inelegant, a necessary bridge to the past that you just can't get over. It's like having to have a big green electrical terminal sticking out of your lawn with your otherwise perfect lawn and perfect landscaping. And I think it drives them all a little batty.
Oh yeah, no, the designers absolutely are like, I could make this phone so slim and beautiful if I didn't have to have that 3.5 millimeter jack to deal with. And it complicates things on the internals as well that we don't think about. I get that. It can cause interference. I get that. You have to shield it. But it really does, it's really a big jump. And maybe I just need to be the old man who gets out of the way because I'm impeding progress. I don't know.
Well, I mean, again, like I say, if you're already using stock headphones and the new pair of stock headphones that comes with the thing and you're okay with it, this is an easier transition. If this is the only device that's really getting this attention, no big deal. But then if you're not like me and you immediately want to get your sound canceling Bose headphones or whatever it is, well, then suddenly things get complicated. So I really do kind of have a foot in each side. I like the progress. I don't like the disruption, and I'm really
conspiracy of big headphones, Scott. Right. I want to just sell you new headphones.
Well, when a company, if Apple and Samsung, let's say they're the two bastions of change in this way. If they both do this, that's just it. We're going to have to live with it. We're going to have to figure it out because now you're talking about the broadest possible base of change, and so we have to do it. Part of me is like, all right, I'm ready to go when it comes, but a little part of me says, yeah, but maybe they won't, and I won't have to think about it or worry about it. Yeah. So I am kind of with you and kind of, I don't know, man. I'm with you and I'm not with you, but I may be more with you than I initially thought.
I have a lot of things that end in mini jacks. I'm just looking around. I could see like 5 just from
I was just going to do the same thing.
That's part of it too, I'm sure.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items in view.
Yeah.
Oh, man. 6 adapters, $39.99 each.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to our pick of the day. Mike is picking performance.cira.ca. He says, it's not just because I work at CIRA. CIRA is the Canadian Internet Registration Authority. They handle the .ca domain. But he says, performance.cira.ca does a great job of showing you the actual speed you get, not the optimal speed. He's like, most speed tests show you the optimal speed you can get based on a favored node. This shows you the actual speed based on the real network. Now, Mike said it was Canadian only. I was able to do a test on it, though. But I think what he means is there are only servers in Toronto, Montreal, and Calgary. You kind of do, if you want to have a good speed test, have a server that's near you so that you're not dealing with transit issues and things like that. But I still got a pretty good and seemingly reasonable result from it. So especially if you're in Canada, you might want to check it out. Performance.cira.ca.
Yeah, I'm running one now. So this probably give me a server somewhere, who knows where. But you can look.
Probably Toronto. Toronto's the one by default, and then you can change it to Montreal or Canada. So.
Yeah, those are fine cities. No problem.
Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Toronto's a fine city. Nothing wrong with it. Ron wrote in and said, in public transport in the UK and Australia, hail means boarding or alighting a mode of public transport by signaling that one wishes to board or alight rather than the system of designated stops. It kind of means that here. You hail a taxi. I get it. So Ron says, If Ford had said, in 5 years, we will replace drivers of public transportation routes with driverless cars, would you think that goal could be reached on time? Of course, he's referring to Ford saying we will have level 4 autonomous cars in 5 years. Ron says, seems that might be a first step toward Uber or Lyft driver replacement, which I would think is much harder to do than a planned route that repeats. Not to mention this type of hail could be done with lasers. Just because lasers, right? Yeah. Remember, Ford still makes Ranger pickups and Falcons, but just not for the United States. So perhaps they are predicting something different than we in the U.S. think they are saying. Now, this is interesting. Ron and I chased some emails back and forth working out this thing. The one thing that Ford also said was, we want these to be cars to be used by ride-hailing companies. And they even mentioned Lyft and Uber as the kinds of companies they're talking about, although they wouldn't settle on any of them as partners at this point. But to Ron's point, they did say that they might limit their usage to certain regions where they had high resolution maps. So not quite as restrictive as Ron was saying, where they would only have a pre-programmed route, but they say they might only work in downtown Manhattan, for instance.
The other thing the email got me thinking about that I hadn't thought about before was the idea that I think we've all kind of had it in our heads that one day services like Lyft and Uber and maybe even those services themselves would become automated services. They would become driverless services. But it hadn't occurred to me that in my head that makes sense. But what you're talking about there is predetermined routes versus very specific routes. I need to go to this floral place, and then I need to go to this mall, and then I need to get back home or whatever. What buses and automated transportation are in theory now are big automated routes where you've got stops. They're always the same, and the thing just does a loop. That's harder than I was thinking. Like, that's not going to be as easy. So lasers, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah, obviously the answer is.
I appreciate good emails like this because they make me think.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think Ford is meaning something different than level 4 autonomous cars, but they might be restricted on the region. So again, I don't think it's going to be like it'll only go up and down Fifth Avenue on the same route as the bus that goes up and down Fifth Avenue. But it might say like, yeah, it can only go to Manhattan and parts of Queens and the Bronx, and it'll take you out to JFK and back, but that's it. You can't go out Long Island. You can't go out elsewhere. I could see that being a kind of system that they might roll out for this.
Sure, like buses. I'm telling you, that's how this stuff starts.
Well, not as restricted as buses. So it's like the next step up from buses, right? Because like if you want the bus, and that's why Ron's saying you could hail a bus in between stops. What if you could hail the cab and still go to the flower shop because it's within the zone. It's within the highly mapped zone.
Yeah, they're not
even if the
stops,
would,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I can stop here if I have to walk half a block, fine, or whatever, but I can be more incremental about where I want to go.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron, and thank you, everybody, for writing in. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We read all your emails. We appreciate them very much. And we appreciate very much Scott Johnson spending time with us on Wednesdays. What you been up to lately?
Oh, man. So we launched that Rally Point show for Bleacher Report, bleacherreport.com. Been very happy with it. Some really great interviews have gone down. We record new episodes tonight. New episode goes up on Friday. If you are at all interested in esports and competitive gaming of any sort, be that in MOBAs or first-person shooters, collectible card games, whatever it may be, we're covering it all. We're talking to the devs, the players, the streamers, the casters, and taking your feedback as well. So check it out. We actually have a really cool URL for it now. It's called the Rally Point Podcast. You can find it at rallypoint.gg. All right, see, a good game.
I like that.
They'll take you straight there. You can subscribe through iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It's free, of course, and we're really enjoying doing it. So if you haven't had a second to check that out, please do. For everything else, I'm at Scott Johnson on Twitter.
Head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support to find out the ways to keep the show from going away. That's not going to go away, but thought I'd be dramatic there for a second. No, we really appreciate everybody who supports the show. And if you're willing to be one of them and you aren't yet, that's one way to do it. Head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Do it right now. If you want just the headlines every day in less than 10 minutes, subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. Our email address is feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nice.
Nailed it.
There's a little town up next to Looks like it's next to Alaska in the very western point of Canada, where they have a download speed average of 0.12 megabits per second.
Oh my gosh.
Is that the Yukon?
I don't know. I don't know where that is. It's
Yukon.
lousy though.
There's gold in them there hills, but no bandwidth.
They have better internet on the northernmost point at 1.2 megabyte.
It's probably because there might be a mine up there.
Could be. Never trust those mines, Roger. Ever.
Well, like if you have a mine operation, invariably you're going to have a large, or at least moderate-sized company.
Don't trust the mines, Roger.
Or mimes, for that matter. Don't trust mimes.
Oh, everyone gives a hard time to mimes. They're just trying to earn a living like
you're
everyone
right.
else.
You're right. We should be nicer to mimes.
Sure.
I mean, they busk for a living, like the living statues, or the guys that pop and lock, or
They look like
the really obnoxious ones are the ones that beat on the buckets, the upside-down buckets, like they're drumming.
Oh, I actually like those.
Yeah.
I know. I'm alone. No one else likes them.
You are alone, Tom.
Yeah.
Spinning
very
through
lonely.
space.
Appreciator.
Speaking of appreciate, want to appreciate some titles?
Yeah,
Sure. I'd love
All
to.
right. Top is Apple's thinnest audio.
Mm-hmm.
Next is pretty much, this is my favorite, guacamole. Like guacamole.
Oh, God.
See? It's almost like a dad joke.
Wait, is it because you put onion in guacamole?
You
See,
can't.
because the Univision owns. Never mind.
Guacamole. I mean, it's borderline racist, but whatever. It's pretty funny. Internet gets Army.
Mm-hmm.
Intel.
Internet or Intel?
Intel. I'm sorry, I
Oh,
meant
yeah,
Intel,
okay.
not Army.
That Intel makes more sense. Yeah.
Sorry, Internet. Intel gets Army. Twitch goes from bad to curse.
Yeah.
These are all dad jokes.
You guys are on today with the dad jokes, anyway.
Automatic for the people movers. That's a REM reference.
Nice. Yeah, I like it.
Jacking with audio. Oh, this is good. C, the letter C, no dongle, hear no audio. Like USB-C.
That's high
like
concept, Steve I.
Yeah.
Is
See
it?
no dongle, hear no audio.
Kind of like it.
I do.
I know. I can tell you the one you're not going to use.
Boya?
Jacking with audio. You're not doing that one.
Probably not. Probably
Nope.
not. Dark Redeemer. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
As elegant as there is, to be
Oh,
honest.
great. Somebody's trying to throw me under the bus. Scott Johnson says Pinterest is for women as a system.
Oh, of course. That's because you protested too much.
I did.
It's not for women. It's for women and women like men.
No, it's not even that. It's for people who like visual things.
It's okay. I understand. We all have our hobbies.
It's great for food too.
We all have our hobbies. I'm just playing with you. I use Pinterest. You know, the only reason why I don't like Pinterest is because you have to sign up to use it.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I'd rather just browse
Actually, you know, Facebook's done that now too. Before you could visit like a Facebook page without logging in.
Mm-hmm.
Like but now they want you to log in. It's
Well, it depends if it's a public page, they'll let you. I think, won't they?
No, they will, but they'll immediately pop up that big fake box on the bottom that says to join Facebook.
Yeah.
It's annoying. So Twitch is now cursed is number 1, followed by guacamole.
I like Intel Gets Army too. Twitch is now cursed and Intel Gets Army are my favorite non-main topic ones.
A little.
See no dongle, hear no audio
It's pretty good.
is my top on topic one.
Yeah, I like that one.
I don't need to choose quite the second, so I'm going to let you vote if you're watching live,
vote away,
if you're listening live. Go to
Well,
showbot.tv.
You know what's interesting about the Intel ARM story is that unlike AMD, which divested its foundry business and they sold it, Intel seems intent on keeping theirs, but they're just going to find additional customers to use the service.
I kind of like a little dongle, do ya? A little dongle, do ya?
It's kind of lewd.
It's a little lewd, but I like the use of dongle. It's not bad.
Yeah, just using dongle is always lewd.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like about see no dongle, hear no audio, honestly.
Please don't pull on my dongle. Right? See? Suddenly everyone gets taken
Please.
back to junior high
Please.
Yep.
on the playground after lunch. Play wall ball, man. It's like, okay.
Twisting Intel's arm. Intel does more arm than good. Oh,
Ah.
I can't.
It's a little too harsh. in
Yeah.
its
Yeah, because
implication.
it's
A lot of these are like that. It's like Twitch goes from bad to curse, or Apple's
little dongle do you just race to the top.
Amazon likes to curse. Nice.
Amazon's cursed service.
Interesting ads coming soon.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Intel gains an arm, loses audio jack.
That's working hard.
Apple's
that's doing the
argument
Lord's
is
work right
thin.
there.
But they really like that dongle one.
A little donga do you? Intel gets army guacamole.
Guacamole will be my private favorite. That's my favorite just because it's great, but I also agree it's borderline offensive.
I kind of want to do Intel gets Army. I'll be honest.
Gets army.
Is that
Yeah,
cool with you guys?
I think that one's
Yeah.
fine.
Anyone want to make a case for one of the others?
It's in second freaking place. I think the only other one I'd fight with would be See No Angle, Hear No Audio, but it's a little heady. I think Intel gets Army is pretty good.
Yeah.
You go, Beatmaster.
Go.
Dropping those beats.
Certainly
So,
is the master of them.
oh, I got a coughing fit. I'm so glad you were talking when I had it.
When was that?
I know you didn't even notice. I was
No,
hoping
I didn't.
you notice. I drank like half a gallon of water during that, trying to quell it.
Itchy throat.
Oh. You know, because I'm at the tail end, and so now it's like that dry cough from nowhere that you can't stop.
Oh yeah, and it comes out of nowhere. You don't even know it's there, and then
Yeah.
suddenly your throat seizes up. I hate that.
You get it in like high school, and you'd have to leave class, and it's the worst.
Did you ever get detention?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got 2 weeks once for throwing, or no, there are two separate occasions. Both were 2 week suspensions. One was for throwing an ice ball at a building outside.
Wait, an ice ball? Like,
Yeah, well, because the snow had all turned kind of wet slush ice, and it was against the rules to throw any snowballs at all because kids were getting beaten in the head and hurt. And I just happened to throw one against one of those portable buildings, the little extras, and got seen by the VP right when I did it. And I had to follow him around and be basically his servant for 2 weeks at school instead of going to class. So it wasn't even like a home suspension, which was a real bummer. And then the other time was when this kid copied artwork in my 8th grade drawing class, and he copied my entire thing, didn't know about it, turned it in before I had a chance to turn mine in, and was getting a grade before me. And I was so mad. And I've never done this since or before, but I was so mad. All I did was just haul off and hit him as hard as I could in the nose. So I punched him in the nose. First and only fight I ever got in. And I had so much adrenaline that I didn't feel a thing, but I broke his.
Oh,
I think he broke the internet there.
he broke what?
Wow, I caught him mid-frame too with the anger.
That's
Well,
so
I've
weird.
never been suspended from high school.
I was never suspended, but I did get detention a few
I
times.
got borderline.
I didn't have anything that was close to the story that Scott was telling, though.
I got borderline suspended for dropping water balloons on people from the second story bathroom.
I think the worst thing I did was I just walked out of chemistry class one day to go to the bathroom without asking, and the teacher was in the middle of a lecture. And that's the most angry I ever saw a teacher with me.
He said everyone froze. Yeah, you froze. Oh, he's coming.
Yeah, you froze, and right as you were telling us about the clincher part.
So much adrenaline that you didn't even feel your hand break against the man's or the
Oh,
other.
see, yeah, I broke my pinky, bone stuck out and everything. Had to get it set. Got suspended for 2 weeks. It was bad.
I was telling my lame story about how I walked out of chemistry class in the middle of the lecture to go to the bathroom without asking. That was like the
Well,
maddest I ever saw a teacher with me.
I got hauled off for dropping water balloons. But it's funny, every fight I've gotten into, no figure of authority was within like 100 feet.
I got into
I
fights
never
in
understood
elementary school, but not in high school.
like junior high, I got like into fights for like the first half of sixth grade, and no, like again, no figures of authority at any time.
This is why I
except,
never wanted to be a teacher, is because I'm like, I know we all got into fights all the time, and I can't imagine having to be the person trying to stop all that.
I remember the one in seventh or eighth grade that like the schoolyard was the yard was actually raised and behind the school because it's built into the side of a hill, and like it was a lunch recess, and I guess two kids were going at it, and suddenly you see like 100+ kids just start make like a donut shape, like a fight circle, and everyone says fight, 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 and these two kids are wailing on each other. I was like, shouldn't there be a monitor or something up here trying to break this up?
Somebody should be. I wasn't much of a fighter, though.
You're a lover, not a fighter.
Not a fighter.
You didn't take enough martial arts to drill the anger into a focused blow.
It got me into well, yeah, I definitely swung wrong. Like I shouldn't have broken anything when I did it, but it got me all sorts of fame and stuff with like jocks and people. Like,
well, who was it you were hitting?
Some nerd in our class. Well, no, I shouldn't say nerd.
Listen to you. Wow, no wonder you're so popular with the jocks, beating up on nerds. The cover is blown off Scott Johnson.
Dang it. No, he was a big kid in this class who just copied my art. I don't think I really knew him outside of that, and I just was so mad. It was one of those experiences where you realize that sometimes instinct and like adrenaline and I don't know, animal stuff kicks in and you just don't have the kind of control you thought you had. Because I remember it freaked me out. When I was done, I was like, all right, that is not happening again, because it's kind of scared me.
You scared yourself?
Yeah. I didn't think I was capable of that. I was supposed to be this like nice, quiet nerd guy that didn't ever hit anybody.
You know what though? Like I was picked on relentlessly, and I remember in seventh grade, this kid, his nickname was Ox, believe it or not. He was this big Chinese kid, and he just picked on me for no reason. Like he would single me out in the crowd. I don't even know you, dude. Why you keep picking on me? And I remember he used to just shove and punch me, like just I'm walking like home, he would just come up and punch me in the back of the head.
He probably liked you.
Maybe, but there's a point where I just kind of snapped, like, and people used at that point and moving forward, anyone who messed with it, I just like snapped at them. Like I would swing at them, or I'd like try to get them in a chokehold, and then I put my knee on the back of their legs so they couldn't stand up on the ground.
Ah, the first Changri incidents.
I just started rolling, snowballing from there.
Yeah.
And then high school came around, and I kind of got better. I focused my energies into walking a very, very long walk home because I had like a super suburban high school.
It was 5th and 6th grade that I went through that period, and then I settled down by junior high. But yeah, what is that? Is that just a natural like tribal tendency to like?
Maybe. So like adolescent mammals like elephants and stuff go through that. They reach a period where they're 14 or 15 and they're just dangerous to be around by even by other elephants. Like they stay away from them because they're just like testosterone.
Because you need the aggression to defend the pack, and in human cases to do hunting.
Well, not just
but
to
you
defend.
need to have the limits on it. So you need that period of time where the aggression can grow, but the limits can be learned.
So, the whole thing where they say teenagers think they're invincible? I think that's a evolutionary trait because when, for example, a pride of lion, like a new male lion comes out, the challenger lion is typically younger, more aggressive because they don't know any better. They think they live forever. So it's like, well, I'm going to try to kick this old man off his high perch of hoarding all these women to himself and I'll take over. And then they get into it. But evolution has made it so that only the ones that eventually learn from their mistakes come out on top. It's like who's an up-and-coming fighter? It's like fighting against George Foreman. Like he might be bigger and slow, but man, he can wallop your ass.
Did you say up and coming? That young buck.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like some young buck coming up to like George Foreman. It's like, yeah, I can punch you. You got the aggression, you got the speed, but you don't necessarily have the skill set yet, or George Foreman's right hook.
Yeah. His He's I've heard a story the other day on NPR somewhere about him and the grill and how that all came about. It was fascinating. That guy's super interesting. He's not just this bombastic pitchman guy post boxing.
He invented the actual grill?
Well, it got brought to him by a failing brand, and he picked it up with his and put his name on it, and then him and his team pushed it. But just learning about how they made that successful versus all this other stuff that kind of tanked for them, it was really interesting. I was fascinated by it. I want to say it was like Planet Money or something.
I'm always fascinated, like when MSNBC or maybe NPR like do a story on like brands that have failed or people who've worked with failing brands, and eventually they figure out what they've done wrong and they get the hit product out. But what's obvious is it's never obvious what the failing is, right? Other than it just wasn't popular, right? It's attributed to like timing, price point, changing tastes or whatever. And it's like, but how do you know whether or not something is just, falling out of favor? Like, I mean, there is bejeweling stuff, I'm sure, is out of fashion, but how did Ronco know, or K-Tel or whatever, figure that was a thing to begin with? How do they know, people?
I feel like that's a confirmation bias. We see something unexpectedly successful and we think, oh, there was a person out there who figured out it would be successful and put it out. What we don't pay attention to is the number of things that are tried that fail. And so it's not that they knew bedazzling would be successful. It's that they had this idea, they put it out there, and they just lucked out at timing.
So it's all down to luck.
It's the amount, there's like literally millions, probably more products being tried every day, and we only see the successes.
Well, because bedazzling, isn't that just a version of like stud, or not studs, but like putting rivets in your jacket?
It's like a viral video. Like why does one particular video go viral and not another?
Yeah. Or in the case of it's not so much that the world's ready for bedazzling, it's that they place a bet that if, hey, we do this weird thing, we bet we can get so many people to be interested in it, and then it becomes a thing.
Well, and what I'm saying is millions of those bets are placed every year,
right?
But only a few of them succeed, and then we look at them, and because it's so complex for something to become successful, it's like predicting the weather. Like you can maybe come up with a few best practices, but you can't guarantee.
Yeah, it's like, why Facebook? Why not Friendster? Why?
Right.
Like, if you could get all the information somehow and then parse it, maybe you could come up with answers. But I think a lot of it is just...
Well, that's what's going to happen. Machine learning will figure out how viral videos and products become hits, and then they'll design only the hits, and then there won't be any businesses anymore because you will only have machine learning products.
Oh, wow. There's a Business Insider article about how, maybe you saw this, Mark Zuckerberg says in an interview, or at least indicates in an interview, that he regrets having to spend $2 billion on Oculus to get into VR.
That's such a misleading headline.
It is, because
he said, "I wish I would have bought it earlier when it was cheaper." It's like, wow, said everybody who ever bought anything ever.
Yeah, he says things like, "We wish we would have built something up in house."
Yeah, right.
That's not the same as we regret.
I mean, it's mildly interesting, but I did see it. They're I feel like they're trying to make more out of it. Like, it is Zuckerberg admitting a mistake, I suppose. Like, we should have got on that earlier. But yeah, I don't know. It did not blow me away.
It's not like them going, "Oh, we've made a horrible error."
Yeah, no, and that's what the headline sort of leads you to think of the first time you read it. Is like, oh, Zuckerberg regrets buying Oculus. Like, no, he regretted buying it when it was $2 billion.
I don't like the headline. It's bad. All headlines are bad.
And it's like, at the time he bought Oculus, a lot of people were still questioning whether he should have or not. So, I don't know.
And I think you could look at the current sales rate and stuff and still question it. So,
I regret not buying Microsoft in 1983.
Yeah.
Or whenever it was that they IPO'd.
I regret not buying really cheap Apple stock in 95.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I regret not buying U.S. Steel stock in 1912.
Oh, yeah? Well, I regret not buying tea from the British Wait, that's bad. That would have gone. It lost its value. Never mind.
Yeah, no, you don't regret that.
Did you see this story? I just saw this in the BBC. Ryan Lochte and James Fagan ordered to stay in Brazil.
Yeah, but the story when I read it wasn't sure if they were still there.
Well, like, what are they like? Is it because they're?
Well, according to the story, it's because there are questions about their story of getting robbed in the taxi. They think they made up the story.
Okay.
And the authorities want to know what really happened.
But if nothing,
it's like filing a false police report.
okay. But like, do you keep someone in country till that's solved? Typically.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I mean, generally they would just drop the case. Like, all right, we don't believe you.
Well, it depends on the circumstances.
Well, I know, but that's
so turn it around. Turn it around. Explain to me a situation where someone has reported a crime that was not a lie that would require the police to keep them in the country. You can come up with that scenario, I'm sure.
Typically, if it involves like, large theft of money or a homicide.
There you go.
So, did someone die though?
I don't know. We don't know.
But that's what I'm saying. If it's toward the case of them lying about the case, no one died. They just said their belongings were.
Maybe somebody did die. Maybe more went missing than just what they reported.
Well, that seems a little vague.
Maybe there was a huge hit on a club. The people said, if you report your goods stolen, we will come and find you and kill you. So Lochte said, well, we want to report our stuff stolen because we're going to get in trouble. But let's just say it was taken from the taxi. And then the feds started figuring out there was a robbery at the club. And now they're like, no, you guys, you're witnesses in a federal crime case. We need you to stay in the country.
But then wouldn't the French Olympic team have mentioned something? Because they said they were attending a French Olympic team's at the hospitality house. That's where they were coming back from.
Maybe they were before they went to the club.
It's a little too vague to hold someone.
No, it's not vague. We just don't know all the details.
Yeah. We know that their passports have been.
Have they?
Yeah. Oh well, one of Ryan Lochte's back in the U.S. supposedly.
Well, when I read it, they said they didn't know whether he had gone or not.
Lochte, Fagan, and two other members of the U.S. swimming team. Lochte's lawyer told the BBC he got back to the U.S. 2 days ago.
Oh yeah, okay. Remember, also Brazilian judges have ordered WhatsApp shut down 3 times, so they.
I'm just trying to figure out because it doesn't make sense with the details that I have in this story.
You know what the rule of thumb is with swimmers is don't trust swimmers. And the reason I say that is because I had listen, it's all based on bad high school experiences, but so whatever they say, blow it off.
Well, and the police generally don't give out details for ongoing investigations. So the police are only saying the CCTV recordings at the Olympic Village don't match up with when Lochte and Fagan said they got back to the village. So they obviously have something else they need to investigate.
Maybe.
Or maybe the judge is just being punitive.
Perhaps. I don't know. I don't think there's anything foul. I'm just curious. Like, is it just because they're missing 3 hours, so they can't leave the country until those 3 hours are accounted for?
No, I think there's more to it than that. I think you're right.
Well, like, is there something that happened in the 3 hours?
That's what The world wants to know.
Do they? Apparently, the BBC put it on the front page.
Well, yeah, exactly. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a lovely day. Spray chrome in your mouth.
No, don't spray chrome in your mouth.
Because it's a lovely day.
It's a lovely day. I want to watch that again. It'd be my